Hey guys, I am Jess and I'm an aesthetic nurse, and I actually haven't made a sit down video like this in so long, so bear with me. I'm just gonna talk about how I became a aesthetic RN 1 year post grad and just kind of like my background and how it led me to my current job. So to start off, just a little bit of context. I got my undergrad degree in the Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Science or Kinesiology, and it was the end of my junior year. I knew I wanted to do nursing. I didn't know what yet, but I knew that I liked the aesthetic side. So I originally looked into derm because I didn't know too much about aesthetics at this time. Then I ended up getting a job in a local medical spa as their medical assistant, and I was working there part-time for 3 years. And this is when I ended up falling in love with the world of aesthetics, because back then, and that was only a couple years ago, I feel like it was still a very taboo subject, and it seemed like only the older generation of adults were getting Botox, and it was also not very spoken thing. So during this time, I got to work alongside the owner, who's also a registered nurse, and her husband, who's the medical director, and I got to help with any cosmetic procedures ranging from Botox, fillers, cool sculpting, PDO thread, lasers, just every procedure you could think of, I was there helping them. So obviously I learned a lot through that time. When I was applying to nursing programs, I was debating between an accelerated BSN or a master's. And the master's, what people got confused of, and even me myself, was that the master's of nursing program is a different specialty, which is the clinical nurse leader, and this is not the same as like an advanced nurse role, like a nurse practitioner. So the MSN program, you just needed a bachelor's in something else as long as you had prereqs filled. And so debating between the two, I ended up choosing MSN because I knew my long-term goal was to go to NP school, and that helped basically facilitate that bridge over later when I wanted to go, since I will just have to take about like 17 credits or so to finish a post-grad certificate in family nurse practitioner. So I finished that in 2 years. Fast forward to my last semester in nursing school, I asked if I can have my practicum in the OR because I kind of wanted to see more invasive anatomy procedures, and I feel like that would have helped my just knowledge and education and critical thinking skills. So essentially the faculty advisor, she recommended against it because any previous students that have had their practicum in the OR didn't learn as much as a nursing student because there wasn't much they could do except for observe. I ended up in a neuro step down unit, and I did learn a lot there in terms of like phlebotomy skills and doing like the regular routine bedside nursing routines. So from there, the last semester I was also shadowing a local plastic surgeon who was very reputable. I only got that from literally reaching out to plastic surgeons and med spas in the area. And at this point, mind you, I wanted to find something that was free because obviously I was his student, and he graciously allowed me to shadow a couple times a month. So I went in and did that, and that definitely helped me just gain more exposure from a different, obviously, practice. And he actually advised me to go into the hospital first because he always said that going from the hospital to aesthetics is way easier than the other way around, which is obviously aesthetics to the hospital, especially as a new grad. So I really took that advice to heart and applied to an OR residency program that I found through an info session through my school. So I got plugged into that, and I got that interview and secured that job within August of 2022, which was the month I was graduating. And it was all obviously under the condition that I passed my board. And that job didn't start till February 2023 because their October cohort for the residency program was full. So they put me into the February cohort. So during that time, I studied for my NCLEX. I passed in December 2022. Moving on to the OR, I was there about 4 months out of the 1 year that the residency program was lasting, and that was only because I was still actively applying to aesthetic jobs in the area because the jobs are very limited and competitive, and I was kind of just like passively doing it with not really intention of leaving the OR yet. However, I did get an opportunity, and I'll talk about that after. But basically in the OR, I learned how to scrub and circulate, and I got to see a lot of the surgeries, particularly neuro. So I was in a lot of spinal fusion surgeries, craniotomies, and I got to learn both sides of the nursing roles in the OR, and I just really enjoyed the OR. Like if I wasn't going into aesthetics, I probably would have stayed in the OR, but I just felt a little more urgency. I feel like I kind of started late. I know this is just like my own internal brain working and just worrying about things. When I got that opportunity to go into a local medical spa slash plastic surgery practice, I took that opportunity because it was basically a higher pay, and then they would train me themselves to do injectables as well as just get exposed to more cosmetic procedures, and I was going to be their lead nurse. And it was also very close to my house. So there were just so many factors as to me leaving the hospital, and obviously this was not an overnight decision, but it was more of like, although I was very excited to just jump on it, I really did think thoroughly about it. And so I made that decision to leave the hospital. I gave my 2 weeks. They actually said I could leave prior to the 2 weeks since there's not really any point for them as a business to put me into the OR rooms anymore, and they would just have me do admin work. So at this point, the OR supervisor was just saying, I will leave on good terms still with the hospital, but it's my choice to leave. So I left and I started working in the plastic surgery practice / med spa the following week. Here there was 2 doctors. They were both board certified plastic surgeons, and initially I was kind of just learning the ropes of the office and kind of just assisting with their in-office procedures like lipo, and then also just kind of shadowing them in their injectables because they kind of wanted to, slowly train me in this. During this time, I was trying to be patient in terms of like I would do my own education. I actually got these books. It's from Amazon. I'll link it below. It's the Rebecca Smalls Botox and Dermal Filler Procedure books, and it goes over all the anatomies, like the facial muscles, the facial arteries, and like depth of injections, and like just everything foundationally that if you want to start learning as an injector, this is a great place to start. So this is what I was doing during admin days at the office or on days that the surgeons had surgery scheduled. So this is what I would be doing. Also, I would be kind of using the company platforms like Galderma and MERS and Allergan and things like that to use their training modules on there as well. So I basically found all the little ways I can train myself, just at least textbook wise, prior to going into the hands-on training, and just showing the doctors that I'm very passionate about it and how much I really wanted to start the hands-on training. But about 4 months later, there wasn't really much change in terms of the doctors also had another location, so they weren't at this location all the time to train me. And then if they were, they either had office procedures or patients of their own they had to see. They were a little bit more hesitant on letting me do the hands-on, and so at this point I was kind of feeling a little discouraged and feeling like I hit a wall because I feel like I was doing everything I could on my end, but to get that hands-on practice is so different from just reading everything. I later got reconnected with a employer that I reached out to back in nursing school days, and they basically said reach back out once I passed the board. So I got reconnected with them, and they connected me with the medical director there, and they were looking for a nurse at one of their locations. They have 5 locations, so I would be doing all their Botox and lasers as well as their nanoneedle procedures. The only thing was that they didn't have filler at this place. However, I just wanted to get hands-on training as much as I could, so I took that interview without much thought because at this point I was feeling very discouraged. And mind you, I've never jumped so much from job to job, but as like a new grad and just feeling so urgent, just like wanting to learn so bad, but not really, getting those resources or education from my current workplace, even though it was kind of promised during my interview. I was just at a place where I just would take anything just to get that hands-on. Obviously, I could have invested in trainings at this time, but going to one training, I feel like, yes, it's better than nothing, but it's also like I was scared that I would forget everything if I couldn't do the hands-on to kind of, recite it and retain all the information that I learned at the trainings. So that's why I did not invest into trainings at this point. Once I got into this job, I actually got an offer that same night. I was doing an interview online with the medical director, and I just basically told my current plastic surgery office that I have to leave, and I wasn't allowed to give my 2 weeks, unfortunately, just because they were really urgently hiring due to their previous nurse on maternity leave. So there was an empty spot and they just couldn't find a suitable nurse for that position. So I obviously didn't want that opportunity to slip away. That is my current job I'm in right now. Essentially, the last job I did, get certified in cool sculpting. I did get more exposure, which is better than nothing. And I may have been a bit impatient, but honestly, I don't regret leaving because I've gotten so much hands-on practice at my current job. I feel like Botox is still very foundational and important to master before even learning filler. And I feel like just focusing on Botox right now really does help, and it takes years to even master just Botox. So being able to regularly do Botox on different clients' faces and anatomy anatomies, and kind of just knowing how to do this. The assessments, the procedures, and knowing how to talk with patients, that is something that I've been learning a lot in this job. And so I'm very grateful. I told myself that next year I'm gonna start investing in trainings as well as just investing in my own education so that I can learn like fillers and just kind of more advanced Botox injections, or just mastering what I've learned so far. And yeah, so that's kind of like my little story of how I got here. Obviously there was a lot of switching and everyone's path is very different. It's not to say that you have to go into the hospital to become an aesthetic nurse, but if you want to become an aesthetic nurse, because it is a very growing competitive career field of nursing, since it's so much better than bedside, it's something that you have to actively look for and really network and connect and apply to anything, and don't be too picky from the start. Obviously you want it to align with your goals and what you're looking for. However, just keep an open mind, because once you get your foot in the door, that's kind of where more opportunities will open up for you. So that's kind of like my story, and if you guys like more of these aesthetic nursing videos, just let me know and give this video a like. And yeah, I'll kind of take you guys more through my aesthetic nursing journey. And I'm actually applying to NP schools for next year, so hopefully, fingers crossed, that is something that will happen. If you guys have any questions or anything, just feel free to comment or message me. My Instagram will also be linked below. I hope I covered everything. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.